Göbekli Tepe, brother, if there is such a thing as an ancient conspiracy theory, it's this.
People used to think Göbekli Tepe was just the oldest temple in the world. But in 2025, something shocking was found deep under the site.
Göbekli Tepe turned out to be what you think it might have been. Where are the metal tools? Where are the writing, the examples of writing?
A hidden vault held strange objects and ancient writings that point to a smart, lost civilization. Buildings that defy anything we've learned in history. And there's one artifact so strange, no one will show it to the public. This place is no longer just a dig site. It might change everything we know about the past. The mystery begins. In the dry hills of southeastern Turkey near the Syrian border sits a place called Göbekli Tepe, one of the oldest and most mysterious sites ever found. For years, it looked like just another dusty hill. Back in the 1960s, some thought it was just an old cemetery. But in 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt realized it was something much more. What he found would change how we see human history. He began digging in 1995, and what his team uncovered surprised everyone.
The hand, and this is the belt.
Belt, yeah.
And this is a fox skin hanging down from the belt.
This wasn't a village or a farm. It was something built over 11,000 years ago, long before the Egyptian pyramids, Stonehenge, or even farming. That's before people had invented writing, metal tools, or the wheel. And yet, someone had built this place. Göbekli Tepe, which means Potbelly Hill in Turkish, is now thought to be one of the earliest sacred or religious gathering spots in the world. It's part of a group of ancient sites in the area known as Taş Tepeler. Back then, people were still hunters and gatherers. They didn't live in big towns or grow food in fields. Yet somehow, they came together here, possibly from far away, to take part in shared traditions or beliefs. Scientists have used carbon dating to show just how old the place is, around 9,600 to 8,200 years before Christ. That's thousands of years before most people think human civilization began. Experts believe that there are many more secrets waiting to be uncovered, possibly for the next 100 years or more. And the biggest twist? This site suggests that religion and community gatherings might have come before farming, not after it. That turns the old story of how civilization started completely upside down. Göbekli Tepe isn't just another ancient place. It's a site that's making us rewrite history. A strange structure. Göbekli Tepe is one of the oldest and most mysterious places ever found, yet only about 10% of it has been uncovered so far. Even in this small area, researchers have found something amazing: huge, T-shaped stone pillars, standing as tall as 18 feet and weighing up to 10 tons. These massive stones were carved from nearby rock and show animals like snakes, foxes, vultures, and wild boars. Some stones also have strange symbols, showing that the people who made them had strong artistic and technical skills. The pillars are set up in big circles or ovals, with each circle having smaller pillars around the outside and two larger ones in the center. Some of these structures are over 65 feet wide. What's even more surprising is that there are no signs of writing, metal tools, pottery, wheels, or farm animals at the site. This tells us the builders were hunter-gatherers who hadn't yet discovered farming or many of the things we think are needed to build something this big. Even without those tools, these people managed to cut, move, and stand up giant stones with amazing skill. It took careful planning and teamwork. Using special tools like ground-penetrating radar, scientists believe more than 200 pillars are still buried underground, possibly forming 16 or more similar circles. Some unfinished pillars are still in nearby rock pits, and later layers show polished floors and improved stonework. This tells us that people kept coming back over many years, building, changing, and even covering parts of the site on purpose. Göbekli Tepe changes what we thought we knew about early humans. It shows that long before farming or writing, people were already working together, building huge projects and creating art. These early builders were far more advanced than we ever imagined. Ritual center or something more. Göbekli Tepe has large stone pillars carved with animals and symbols, showing artistic skill and careful planning. But even with all this, there's no sign that people lived there full-time. Archaeologists haven't found houses, trash piles, metal tools, or pottery. This tells us that groups of people, likely hunters and gatherers, traveled long distances, maybe over 100 miles, to meet at this place for special ceremonies and rituals. A German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt believed these gatherings were more than just spiritual. He thought they required careful planning, teamwork, and shared resources. People may have needed to store food, cook large meals, and stay for days or weeks. Over time, this could have led to the planting of wild grains like wheat to support those gatherings. In Schmidt's view, religion came before farming. Instead of farming leading to big towns and temples, it was the need for ritual and gathering that pushed people to start farming. This idea flips the old story of how civilization began. Schmidt's theory supports what French archaeologist Jacques Cauvin called a revolution of symbols. The idea that shared beliefs and sacred spaces helped humans settle down. While not everyone agrees that Göbekli Tepe should be called a temple, most experts agree it was a special spiritual place. Nearby studies show that wheat and legumes were first grown close to Göbekli Tepe during the same time it was in use. This supports the idea that the need for shared spaces and ceremonies may have encouraged early farming. A buried secret. One of the biggest mysteries about Göbekli Tepe is that it was not simply abandoned, it was intentionally buried. This happened around 8,000 before the Common Era, long after its huge stone circles were built. Archaeologists studying the site found that layers of soil and rubble had been carefully placed over the structures. This wasn't something caused by wind or rain over thousands of years. It was done by human hands in a very organized and deliberate way. The people who once gathered at Göbekli Tepe made the choice to cover it up on purpose. But the question remains, why would they do that? Experts believe the filling was done intentionally and systematically, using rubble, broken stone tools, animal bones, and other debris. This suggests that it wasn't just about hiding the site. It may have been a ritual act or a cultural decision that had deep meaning to the people who built it. According to archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, who led excavations from the 1990s until his death in 2014, this act of burial might have been a way to mark the end of the site's use as a ceremonial center. The burial preserved the site so well that carvings on the T-shaped pillars, featuring animals like snakes, foxes, and birds, remain incredibly clear today. This high level of preservation also tells us that the people who buried the site cared about it and perhaps wanted to protect or honor it in some way. It was not destroyed. Instead, it was sealed up, almost like it was being put to rest. What's even more fascinating is that this happened before writing, metal tools, or farming became common. The people who built Göbekli Tepe were hunter-gatherers, living in small groups and moving from place to place. But the effort it took to both build and bury such a complex structure shows that they were far more advanced than we once believed. They had to plan together, organize labor, and understand construction and design, even without the tools or systems we often associate with ancient civilizations. Archaeologists have also noticed that newer stone circles were sometimes built on top of older ones, and then both were buried together. This could mean the burial was part of a long tradition, not a single event. Each time a new part of the site was completed, or no longer in use, it may have been buried as part of a ritual or custom. No one knows the exact reason, but it shows that the people had a deep connection to the place. This act of intentional burial adds to the mystery and wonder of Göbekli Tepe. It shows that even in a time before written records, people had beliefs, traditions, and complex social behaviors. They didn't just build something and walk away. They decided to hide it, and in doing so, they preserved a message from the ancient world that we're only just beginning to understand. Fringe theories and strange ideas. Göbekli Tepe has sparked not only scholarly interest, but also a wave of speculative and sensational fringe theories. While mainstream archaeologists credit early hunter-gatherers with building this monumental site around 11,000 years before the Common Era as a ceremonial hub, some authors propose far more extraordinary explanations. Andrew Collins, with an introduction by Graham Hancock, suggested that Göbekli Tepe represents the biblical Garden of Eden, or was constructed under the guidance of ancient watchers, supernatural or extraterrestrial beings. These ideas were embraced by television shows like Ancient Aliens and Forbidden History, which portray alien influence or lost advanced civilizations, despite lacking credible archaeological backing. Another thread of speculation holds that Göbekli Tepe could be a prehistoric astronomical observatory aligned with celestial bodies like Sirius or recording comet impacts. Giulio Magli's 2013 paper raises the possibility of links to Sirius, but official excavation reports and the primary team reject such deliberate alignments, noting shifting stones and later disturbances. The allure of these fringe narratives is understandable. The site's massive carved pillars, dated to a time before settled farming or writing, naturally invite questions, but critics argue these claims often reflect pseudo-archaeology, drawing sensational conclusions from minimal evidence, overlooking context, and capitalizing on mystery for profit or fame. In response, archaeologists emphasize that Göbekli Tepe represents human ingenuity, social complexity, and symbolic behavior evolving naturally among hunter-gatherers, and that no credible evidence suggests alien intervention or a vanished super-civilization. Despite this, the absence of complete excavation, it remains over 90% buried, leaves room for speculation, and sensational interpretations thrive across books, documentaries, podcasts, and social media. 2025 Discovery shocks experts. In early 2025, archaeologists working on the outskirts of Göbekli Tepe uncovered compelling evidence that the site was not solely a ceremonial center, but also a place where people lived and worked. They identified earthen hearths, storage pits, and work surfaces, marking the first clear signs of habitation at the famous monument. Alongside these, teams found stone tools, blades, scrapers, and grinding stones, indicating on-site processing of food. Archaeobotanical analysis revealed wheatgrasses and legumes, showing they were not only eating wild plants, but grinding them into usable food, matching findings published in PLOS One and discussed by the research team. The recovery of gazelle bones and bird remains further confirms that animal processing occurred directly at Göbekli Tepe. These combined finds, tools, food remnants, hearths, storage suggest that Göbekli Tepe served both ritual and domestic roles. This discovery challenges earlier interpretations, which deemed the site a purely special-purpose sanctuary used only for gatherings or ceremonies. Notably, a Jerusalem Post article from February 2025 highlights how these living space features disproved earlier theories that the site served solely as a ceremonial pilgrimage destination. A video update includes footage of excavation trenches revealing kitchen-like spaces alongside lit hearths and stone tool assemblages, underscoring the blended nature of the site. Meanwhile, a broader discussion on the Göbekli Tepe Research Project blog describes ongoing analysis of lithic tools, storage structures, and food processing areas, evidence that daily life and ritual activities likely overlapped. All these elements signal that Göbekli Tepe was no mere stopover for nomadic groups, but included areas of semi-permanent occupation, where daily routines unfolded alongside ceremonial customs. The power of sound in stone. Archaeologists have found that Göbekli Tepe might have been built with sound in mind, not just stones. Studies in archaeoacoustics show that some of its circular enclosures produce echoes and low vibrations between 65 and 145 Hz, frequencies known to affect the human brain. This means that if people chanted, drummed, or sang inside, the acoustic effects could have amplified the experience. It is similar to how some sacred caves or churches use sound to create a feeling of awe. In short, the builders might have deliberately shaped space for ritual sounds, creating emotional and maybe even spiritual impact. A study published in 2025 applied a model called the YP7 framework to analyze the patterns in the site. It found a deliberate use of 7-unit repeating patterns like Pulse 7, woven into the geometry and stone carvings. This suggests Göbekli Tepe was designed not just for people and stars, but also to align human consciousness with cosmic rhythms. It is a striking theory that the site may have operated as a harmonic interface, tuning physical space and mind to the cycles of seasons, stars, or even our own bodies. Bigger than we thought. Radar and geophysical surveys at Göbekli Tepe have revealed that the site is far larger and more complex than previously thought. While only approximately 10% of the hill has been excavated, ground-penetrating radar and geoelectric tomography have identified at least 15 previously hidden circular enclosures beneath the surface. These newly mapped structures include massive T-shaped pillars, adding more than 200 monumental stones to the site's known inventory, with many slabs exceeding 16 feet in height and weighing several tons each. The unexcavated enclosures likely match or surpass the complexity of the 4 already uncovered monumental buildings, labeled A to D, and may belong to additional architectural types like B, E, F, seen in the site's lower stratigraphic layers. These surveys confirm that Göbekli Tepe extends across the entire mound and is not confined to isolated clusters, demonstrating that its builders left behind an immense, multi-phase complex, much of which remains untouched. Given that less than 1/10 of the site is open to archaeologists, the remaining 90% could yield dozens more enclosures, all waiting to be uncovered over the coming decades. Indeed, researchers estimate that unraveling this puzzle could take 150 years or more, as each enclosure requires careful excavation, documentation, and preservation. This vast scale is not only transforming our understanding of Göbekli Tepe, but it also confirms it as the largest known pre-pottery Neolithic ceremonial complex, with the buried portions likely predating the carved stones already on display. Göbekli Tepe's sister sites. Göbekli Tepe is not alone. It belongs to a network of at least 12 nearby sites known as Taş Tepeler, or Stone Hills. A key site is Karahan Tepe, located around 22 miles east of Şanlıurfa. It features over 250 T-shaped pillars, stone benches, carved human faces, and even underground chambers decorated with red ochre paint. These tunnels may have been used in ceremonies symbolizing rebirth or journeys into the underworld. Another companion site is Kurt Tepesi, about 29 miles east of Şanlıurfa. It shows signs of continuous living and spiritual events, stone tools, grinding stones, and T-shaped pillars with carved patterns. Together, these sites suggest a sacred landscape where prehistoric humans built interconnected centers for gathering, working, and worshiping, long before cities or writing existed. This cluster of sites shows that sophisticated ritual, architecture, and community planning existed across a whole region in southeastern Turkey nearly 11,000 years ago. It paints a picture of early society as deeply connected, innovative, and spiritual, not just scattered bands of hunters. The story of Göbekli Tepe and its sisters adds up to a much broader tale of a civilization that loved to gather, build, record the heavens, and shape sound, hundreds of generations before our time. Rethinking civilization. Göbekli Tepe is not merely a primitive ritual site, but a testament to advanced geometry, organization, and community building among hunter-gatherers long before farming or metal tools appeared, challenging the traditional sequence that agriculture sparked complex society. Excavations unearthed massive limestone pillars, carved with animal reliefs, suggesting symbolic or spiritual significance. These enclosures, some arranged in geometric formations, like equilateral triangles, were reportedly designed as integrated complexes, using compass-like planning tools, demonstrating an early grasp of spatial geometry. Recent research has even revealed signs of living spaces, including hearths, storage pits, work areas, along with tools, grinding stones, and remnants of wheat, legumes, gazelle, and bird. Clear evidence that people were living, processing food, and staying for longer periods, not merely stopping for ritual purposes. Ground-penetrating radar also points to at least 15 more hidden enclosures containing over 200 additional carved standing stones, suggesting a massive, coordinated construction effort. Experimental archaeology estimates that small teams of 12 to 24 people could have quarried, shaped, and erected the pillars within months, feasible for hunter-gatherer groups without centralized government or farming. This level of planning, division of labor, and communal effort implies early forms of social organization and leadership, predating traditional markers of civilization. Moreover, the deliberate burial of older structures adds complexity to their cultural practices. All of this evidence, the geometry, the labor coordination, the food processing and living areas, demonstrates that people at Göbekli Tepe were not simple nomads scratching out survival, but a complex society capable of design, collaboration, and innovation, effectively blurring the line between hunter-gatherer camps and early permanent communities. This compels us to rethink the origins of civilization. Rather than farming enabling towns and temples, these groups may have gathered to build and worship first, and only then developed agriculture as a response to social needs, flipping the conventional narrative of the Neolithic Revolution on its head. The global echo. Göbekli Tepe stands as the earliest known monumental stone complex, possibly the cradle of ritual architecture. But it didn't remain alone. Thousands of years later, equally imposing megaliths emerged across the globe, echoing a shared human impulse to mark places of significance. In Wiltshire, England, Stonehenge evolved in stages from about 3000 to 1500 before the Common Era into a circular ensemble of massive sarsen and bluestone pillars, some weighing up to 25 tons, integrated with earthworks, aligned to sunrises and solstices, and used for burials and ceremonies. Across the Mediterranean, the megalithic temples of Malta, including Gantija on Gozo, date between 3,600 to 2,500 years before the Common Era and are recognized as UNESCO heritage sites for their sophisticated stone construction, assidal layouts, and ceremonial artifacts like fertility figurines. Though far apart chronologically and geographically, these sites share remarkable parallels: communal effort, symbolic design, celestial alignment, and ritual use. On Easter Island, the Moai, massive monolithic human forms, came out from roughly 1250 to 1500 CE, conveying ancestral reverence and social cohesion, again demonstrating humanity's tendency to commemorate identity through stone. Architects and archaeologists widely agree these structures were independent inventions, not products of diffusion, yet they reflect universal themes: the urge to converge, to honor, to leave enduring legacies in the landscape. From ritual circles and temple platforms to carved statues, ancient builders shaped stone not for shelter, but for shared meaning, marking a deep-rooted aspect of human culture. The continuity of stone construction from the Near East to Western Europe and the Pacific suggests that while regional contexts differed, the motivations, identity, reverence, belief, and social bonding were shared. In that sense, Göbekli Tepe is not alone. It may be the first voice in a global conversation echoing through time and stone.